Are you looking to start your very own internet radio station or radio network? Do you need a reliable, high-bandwidth, dedicated server? Reliastream offers some of the lowest rates on the web. Reliastream supports Shoutcast, Icecast, and iTunes radio broadcasting. We are so confident you will love our services. We even offer a free 15-day trial. You will also enjoy our free top-rated customer service, free live support, and low-cost dedicated servers. Visit www.reliastream.com. That's reliastream.com to get started.
You're tuned in to Rebooting Liberty.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you live from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network, WNJC 1360, and around the world on the Internet with, and the list gets longer and longer, but it's CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pun and Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Roar Radio, our newest, Reboot Liberty, and AMFM247.com. And joining me today as my co-host is the Patriot from the Garden State, Anna Little. Anna, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
I'm glad to be with you, Rick. Happy Election Day.
Yes. So I know you probably have already been out to do your civic duty.
I have. One of the first things I did this morning was go down to my firehouse, which is where they have all four of my districts in my small town, and I placed my vote before I did anything else today. So I would recommend you listeners that are have not yet completed that task to please make sure you do it, because you don't have the right to complain if you don't exercise that right to vote. So I need you to participate, and I need you to get out and vote for whoever you think you need to support.
Amen to that one, Anna. Amen to that one. So what is on your radar screen this day?
Well, I think it's really important that we talk a little bit about what's going on with regard to the candidates for the presidency. I want to touch on it just briefly, Rick, because I have been watching some of the dynamics. And, there was a moment where I think Donald Trump was trying to attack, probably strategically for the Iowa vote, Ben Carson, and it backfired on him. Then we had that debate where the questions were just so off the wall by CNBC, and the backlash by the candidates and then by the public in general. Really, CNBC, I think, came out the loser of all of that. So I think that's really encouraging going forward. And we have seen Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio move up as a result of that. I'm a little unsure of what's going on with Carly Fiorina right now, but I think these dynamics are important to watch. The point I'm trying to make, Rick, is that I see that the voice of the public has carried, and it has had a significant effect, not only on the candidates in the Republican side, as we've been seeing go on for a number of years, but in a backlash against media bias. Now, it was only in the extreme. People are still swallowing what they get day to day on the mainstream media. But the backlash against media bias in the case of CNBC in that debate, I think is significant. And it's encouraging to me, and I hope it's encouraging to you listeners. Keep up the good work. We're moving the ball down the field. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, the backlash against CNBC has been very interesting. Well, it seems like that Marco Rubio is now Donald Trump's newest target. As you say, he did go after Ben Carson. That seems to have backfired on him. But today he did a press conference about his new book, and one of his targets at this press conference was definitely Marco Rubio, because guess who's in third place now? It is Marco Rubio.
Yep, I mean, I think we all knew he would move up. Now the question is, where does he fall? He does fall into the category of an establishment politician in that he's been in the U.S. Senate, but the difference with him is that he has not been a governor. He hasn't held executive office, and so he's been attacked by his opponents and by some in the establishment by saying he is the Barack Obama of the Republican Party, in that he doesn't have the executive experience and that it would be a mistake for him to be president. I'm not sure that I need that executive experience if I've got somebody that's going to listen to the will of the people and to the experts they surround themselves with. Ronald Reagan didn't have executive experience in government. As a matter of fact, I don't think he had any experience in government when he became president. We all look at him as a great man.
He was governor of California.
Okay, all right, so he did have the executive experience. I think Marco...
But he didn't have it before becoming governor of California. He didn't have it. You know, that was his first elected office. He did really well there. In fact, California would be lucky to have him back again, actually.
Oh, it's quite a mess over there. Yeah. Carly can tell you that.
Yeah. I have my problems with Marco Rubio. I think that, take what you want from the fact that his finances are a mess, his credit card is a mess, his driving record isn't that great, his wife's driving record is terrible. I mean, you can go on with that. But what bothers me about Marco Rubio is the litmus test issue for me is immigration, and on that he fails miserably.
Yeah, he was working on a compromise. There's no two ways about that, and he has to explain that to the public, and the public needs to be heard on that. I know the ultra-conservatives, the right wing of the Republican Party, cannot seem to find a way to support him because of that issue. It's unclear as to where anybody is with regard to that, because he hasn't until recently been high enough in the polls to be in the discussion.
Well, I think
you see where people are with him.
I think you know where Trump, and I think you know where Cruz is on immigration. But anytime you talk about a compromise, Anna, I hate that word. I hate that word, compromise.
I know. Well, he did try that. Went for a compromise. He did.
When you compromise with the Democrats, all that means is that is their first step along the road. That when you compromise with the Democrat, it's always with them 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. If Ronald Reagan, in my opinion, made any mistake during his presidency, it was with amnesty.
Yes, absolutely.
He was promised.
He would have told you. I mean, he has been on the record stating that he did see that as a mistake, because the enforcement principles that were important to him and that were important to his followers in the Republican Party, and they were the right wingers, those enforcement measures never occurred.
Nope.
The amnesty was implemented, and then the rest of it was never implemented. So, he made that mistake, and he admitted he made that mistake. I don't know if Rubio considers what he did to be a mistake. We haven't talked to him about it yet. I do see the lack of support on the far right for him. I don't know where anybody else is on him as a candidate. So it'd be interesting to watch that unfold. Obviously, I think Ben Carson is a terrific example. We talked about him earlier in earlier editions of this radio show, because he is the embodiment of the American dream. And he's extremely intelligent, and he has innovated when it was necessary in order to advance medicine forward. And I think that those kinds of skills would be of terrific benefit to this country. I hope that he can surround himself or get advice from folks that have a little bit better understanding of the dynamics of what's going on internationally right now. But I don't believe he's incapable of doing the job of president in that scenario. So he would be a good one. And, Donald Trump, you can't take anything away from him with regard to economics and business and success. That's his thing, and he will talk about that being his thing. I don't know how he does internationally. And to me, I'm always talking about international affairs on the show, Rick. I'm very concerned about what's going on outside of our borders because it reflects back on our way of life. And especially now with the level of violence and the target painted on the backs of both the United States of America and Israel, we can't take a risk with someone that doesn't understand how to manage that situation. Again, if he can surround himself with folks who know what they're doing and be guided by that, perhaps he does okay. Those are my concerns with the fellows that don't have the government experience, and I really have a lot of questions where it comes to Marco Rubio. I'm glad he's moving up so we can get those questions addressed.
And I wanted to get your question on something that has just been brought to my attention. TransCanada requests suspension of the Keystone XL permit. That Calgary-based TransCanada sent a letter to the U.S. State Department to suspend its application while the company goes through a statewide review process in Nebraska. Congratulations, Barack Obama. You've managed to indefinitely stop the Keystone XL pipeline, or rather a no-brainer, as the Canadian Prime Minister with a background in energy put it. The thousands of good paying jobs to build the pipeline won't happen. The safer transport of oil versus trucking or rail won't happen. Further deployment of energy advantage and its strategic competitive value regarding Russia won't happen. So it looks like one step back.
Well, I would say that this is, again, leverage that we should use going into this presidential race. That there must be a president in power that would permit, under the proper circumstances, the Keystone Pipeline to be built. And I think the Canadian company would probably come back along with the right kind of leadership on the American side. I think the threat of a veto after spending time and money on the application is what has halted it at this point. That makes perfect sense. If you're in business, why are you going to keep barking up the wrong tree if you can't seem to get what you need at the end? You're wasting resources. So I think it could be on the part of the Canadian company a wait and see, since we have the presidential election coming up. It is unfortunate that this current president could not see the benefit to the American people. The wage earners that he's overtaxing with this lifting of the debt ceiling and the spending that he's so fond of, he won't let them improve their own quality of life and their ability to make ends meet in that environment. And so I think at this point in time, it's certainly something to be lamented, but I would say that all of the presidential candidates on the Republican side need to incorporate this now into their campaigns, because it is an issue that drives right to the heart of the voters' way of life and making money in the month's meat in those households.
Okay, Anna, with that, we will take our first break. You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network, WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia, around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Leading Edge Radio Network, Talk, boy, the list goes on and on, Roar Radio, AM FM 24/7, and our newest, Reboot Liberty. Anna and I will be right back. Today's show is brought to you by the First Amendment and protected by the Second.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
This holiday season, help Soldiers for Stockings improve the morale and welfare of members of our armed forces deployed overseas. Now through November 20th, there is so much work to be done, and you can help in many ways. Download the stocking pattern from stockingsforsoldiers.org and start sewing today. Volunteer to help decorate and assemble stockings. Donate Christmas candies, snacks, nuts, chips, drink mixes, DVDs, books, magazines, lip balm, toiletries, and other items needed to fill the stockings. Or help make packets of snowman soup, hot chocolate, to send along with the stockings. For more information, patterns, and a list of items needed, visit stockingsforsoldiers.org. This holiday season, help send our troops a touch of home. For many, it's all they will receive. All stockings need to be completed by November 20th. So get started today at stockingsforsoldiers.org. That's stockingsforsoldiers.org. Stockings for Soldiers, sending stockings filled with joy to our soldiers in harm's way for the 9th consecutive year.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader. And for rebroadcast of our shows, you can check out our website, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com, or mornings at 9 a.m. Log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. At 1 p.m., roarradio.net. And at 6 p.m., log on to thepunditpress.com. And you could also hear our show from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. I'm joined today by Anna Little. And Anna, who are our guests for today?
Well, at the 3:35 segment, we'll be speaking with Sam Rohrer. He served for 18 years in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, and he's presently the president of the American Pastors Network. He's coming on to Conservative Commandos radio show today to talk about an arrogant congressional letter that urges the Ukraine parliament to include LGBT agenda into their new constitution. He says the audacious letter is trying to leverage Ukraine parliament members as they consider historic changes to their national constitution, as if the LGBT agenda is anywhere on their radar, given what's going on in Ukraine right now. So I'm really encouraged that we're going to be speaking with Sam Rohrer and that he's going to be shedding some light on what's going on over there. In the second segment, we're going to be talking with Joel Gerke. He's a political reporter for the National Review, and previously he worked as a commentary staff writer at the Washington Examiner for 3 years, covering campaigns, congressional oversight, and the White House. And Joel is going to talk to us about the VA solved its disability backlog by putting other veterans in a jam. So it's obviously been frustrating for veterans trying to get their education benefits from the Department of Veterinary Affairs. And Joel Gerke is going to talk to us about what's going on in that area. And there's no more important topic than what's going on with our veterans. They're willing to put their life on the line for all of us. The least we can do is make sure that they get appropriate care and services when they return. And then our third segment, we're going to speak with Dan Gaynor. I guess you're going to lead that one, right, Rick?
Yes, I am. Dan Gaynor is Vice President for Business and Culture at the Media Research Center. Dan is a veteran editor with more than 2 decades experience in print and online media. And Dan, regularly appears on this program as well as Fox Business Network. Dan is going to be joining us to talk about the GOP fights back. Reince Priebus blasts CNBC parent and its parent NBC for last week's debate. So we'll be speaking with Dan Gaynor. So, Anna, what else is on your radar screen?
Well, I'm always interested in what's going on with ISIS because I do see them as our enemy, enemy of Israel and enemy of the United States, and generally a global enemy in that they want to eliminate anyone that isn't them. And so I'm interested to know that there have been some new assaults on ISIS in Iraq and Syria. This is something that was updated yesterday around 5 o'clock. The source is CNN. But there's a town called Ash-Shadadi in Syria, and it's in the Hasaka province. And it seems that the Kurdish military sources on the Iraqi side of the border have been saying that ISIS strongholds and oil fields are being targeted south of Hasaka city. And at the same time, new U.S.-backed alliance in Syria, the Syrian Democratic Forces, has announced a new offensive, and they've begun to liberate areas of Hasaka province occupied. Now, I'm not sure what the significance is here because we've always relied upon the Kurdish Peshmerga forces on the Iraqi side of the border, and whoever we could find that was against ISIS in Syria on the ground. And a lot of these folks, you don't know if they're friends or foes of the United States at the end of the day. So I guess we're going to have to wait for a little bit more light to be shed on what the significance is. I like the fact that there are local-based offensives against ISIS in general, but I do think, we need to be cautious about who we support with money and with weapons in that region because we don't know who they're going to be when ISIS is defeated.
Anna, when you say you don't know who they're going to be when ISIS is defeated, it is such a mess right now in Syria. You have the Assad government, you have ISIS, you have the anti-government rebels, you have the Soviet Union, and now Barack Obama wants to get us involved in this mess, and I don't understand why. He has a proven record of failure in these situations. This is the last thing that I think Barack Obama should be involved with.
Well, I'm hoping that this latest move by Barack Obama is in response to his having ignored military leaders who were advising him on this issue. Perhaps he's caving and allowing those military leaders to direct what's going on.
I doubt it. I don't think this man, his brain works differently than yours and mine does, Anna. If something's wrong with my car, I take it to a mechanic. If something electrical needs to be fixed in the house, I bring in an electrician. Barack Obama does not listen to the military professionals. And God bless you, Anna. I love you, but I think it's wishful thinking to believe that he is going to change now.
Well, I don't know. I think that there has been obviously a move, I think probably independently, by military officials on the ground to rescue the 70 or 80 hostages that they did recently. And that's in the context of a war in which they've been told not to do those kinds of offensives, but rather to allow the locals to do that kind of work and to only advise and educate. So I think this man is losing ground at the insistence, perhaps, of military personnel who have had enough of the tactics that don't work and are deciding to step out and do what they think needs to be done in each circumstance. But I don't know. I'm guessing.
Your guess is as good as mine, but I think that's all Barack Obama does, is he guesses at these things. I seriously do not think that he has the best interest at heart of the United States. I don't think he has our best interest at heart.
Well, he's certainly not aggressive militarily at stopping ISIS.
No.
Not. Every attempt he's made to appear that way has fallen flat. Every movement he's made militarily has been weak and minimal. So I do agree with that.
All right, Anna, let's go to our next break, and you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network, WNJC 1360 in Philly, and around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, World Radio, Reboot Liberty, and AM/FM 24/7. Check out our website, ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. On the other side, we're going to be speaking with our first guest, Sam Rohr from the American Pastors Network.
You've heard Paul Deltz playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
This holiday season, help Soldiers for Stockings improve the morale and welfare of members of our armed forces deployed overseas. Now through November 20th, there is so much work to be done, and you can help in many ways. Download the stocking pattern from stockingsforsoldiers.org and start sewing today. Volunteer to help decorate and assemble stockings. Donate Christmas candies, snacks, nuts, chips, drink mixes, DVDs, books, magazines, lip balm, toiletries, and other items needed to fill the stockings. Or help make packets of snowman soup, hot chocolate to send along with the stockings. For more information, patterns, and a list of items needed, visit stockingsforsoldiers.org. This holiday season, help send our troops a touch of home. For many, it's all they will receive. All stockings need to be completed by November 20th. So get started today at stockingsforsoldiers.org. That's stockingsforsoldiers.org. Stockings for Soldiers, sending stockings filled with joy to our soldiers in harm's way for the 9th consecutive year.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Rick Trader and Anna Little. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, CCRS Network and CCRShow.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m., log on to LeadingEdgeRadioNetwork.com. Or 1 p.m. Eastern Standard, log on to RoarRadio.net. And at 6 p.m., ThePunditPress.com. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Our first guest is with us, and the honor of that introduction is mine. Sam Rohr served for 18 years in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, and he is presently the president of the American Pastors Network. Sam is joining us today to talk about an arrogant congressional letter which urges the Ukraine parliament to include LGBT agenda into its new constitution. Sam, welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Well, Anna, it's great to be with you. As always, it's glad to be back on.
Well, I'm glad that you're addressing this issue because I just cannot seem to understand how anyone would think, given what is going on in the Ukraine today, that the LGBT agenda would even be on their minds, let alone involved in the forefront of the constitutional amendments that they're seeking. Talk to me. What's going on here?
Well, Anna, that was my response as well. We happen to have come into possession of the letter that was signed by 40 members of Congress and submitted on congressional letterhead. So it is official. They happen to all be Democrat members of the House. Not
right.
that necessarily means anything, but that does show where this is coming from. But they put together a letter and they sent it to the Speaker of the Rada, which is the parliament there in Ukraine, who right now, as part of their major legislative issues, is putting together a new constitution. Now, the listeners may want to know that it was back in January of 2014 that Ukraine in the center square of Kyiv was called their Maidan Square, Freedom Square, is where thousands and thousands of people gathered and stood in the rain and the snow for several months while they were protesting peacefully. No broken windows, no fires, anything of that type. They stood there but protested the bribery and corruption by the president there, President Yanukovych, which was pretty much a Russian individual there as the president, and he fled the country. As a result of that, Then an interim president was put into place, was the Speaker of Parliament, and they have now proceeded forward in the forming of new government, and a major part of that is the Constitution. So they are looking at a new Constitution. And into this mix, Anna, that this letter from these 40 Democrat congressmen and women from our Congress sends them a letter telling them, urging them, that when they are working on a constitution, which is all about their freedom and getting out under Russian control and having something that would look, similar like what we would have here, they urge them that they must put into place these critical protections, which happen to be homosexual rights, same-sex rights, and all of that agenda, which when we found that, we said, this is absolutely unbelievable. Don't they have things better to do in Washington, like taking care of our own problems, rather than trying to take and export these kinds of ideas and ideology, which really are an affront to the people in Ukraine and most countries around the world, except for what they think to be common down here? This is what happened. This is how we got a hold of it.
Yeah, well, it sounds to me like we're of like minds, you and I. What do you think the Ukrainian response ought to be to something like this coming from U.S. Congress folks who did not step in when Russia invaded Crimea and now are asking for consideration of their position on an issue as a foreign state or members of a foreign state, but they're members of a body which did not take action when Ukrainians were asking for help when Russia invaded Crimea? What do you think their response ought to be?
Well, the response is not one where they say, "Oh, great, we're getting good help from America." No, not at all. Not at all. But Anna, I think it's important to note here that this is not the first time that efforts have come out of the current administration in Washington. Matter of fact, members of our State Department, the Obama administration itself, throughout its various entities, have been trying to put pressure on the Parliament of Ukraine, and I will also say on many other governments around the world, most particularly in the continent of Africa. They have been strong-arming governments in Africa. If you recall, the president went to Kenya some months ago. The Kenyan president said, when you come, Mr. President Obama, don't lean on us about the same-sex marriage and homosexuality business, because we don't want it, we don't embrace it, and we don't want it. So what did the president do? He went there and he hammered on it. But what's taken place by our administration in conjunction with the European Union and the central bank over there, which loans out money, is that our government and our administration and the European Union have been putting pressure on governments in Africa and Ukraine government by telling them, if you do not take and put these kinds of sexual perversion provisions into your constitutional law, we will withhold foreign aid, which is what the United States says, or European Union says we will pull back grants to your government or loans from International Monetary Fund. So they are strong-arming these countries, and many of them are having to say, fine, then take your money and run, because we don't want it. Bottom line is that our country, our nation here, and European Union are becoming known around the world for exporters not of true freedom, not matters of true constitutional protections of inalienable rights before God, as our Constitution recognizes, but an agenda that actually flies in the face of how they view their culture to be and what they interpret morality and marriage to be. And we are becoming, in the eyes of nations around the world, a nemesis. People are upset with our nation, and we are not there to be their friends. We are being there increasingly under this administration to strong-arm them to do things they don't want to do. That needs to be known as a part of this overall context because of what's happening.
Well, I don't think we the people would like to be known as folks who strong-arm other folks, because frankly, we fought a revolution to get away from the imposition of thoughts and values upon us. So it's against our nature to be acting in this way. So I guess we just need to shed the light on what's going on here and make sure that it becomes an issue that gets discussed among we the people, and that a clear message is sent back to the government. The difficulty is the letter's already sent, so the impression's already been made among Ukrainians. I know if I were on the receiving end, I would be outraged, because when I asked you for help, you had nothing to say. Now that I'm trying to solve this on my own without your help, you're butting in. So that would be my reaction. And obviously, the Ukraine has had some reaction, as you described. Now, Sam, we're going to have to go take a break. Can you hold on for about 2 minutes while we do that?
Yes, absolutely. I will. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so very much. Listeners, we are coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Roar Radio, Reboot Liberty, and AM FM 24/7. They're all .com. Rick Trader, Anna Little, and Sam Roar. We'll be right back with you after the break.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm lefty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the Internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
This holiday season, help Soldiers for Stockings improve the morale and welfare of members of our armed forces deployed overseas. Now through November 20th, there is so much work to be done, and you can help in many ways. Download the stocking pattern from stockingsforsoldiers.org and start sewing today. Volunteer to help decorate and assemble stockings. Donate Christmas candies, snacks, nuts, chips, drink mixes, DVDs, books, magazines, lip balm, toiletries, and other items needed to fill the stockings. Or help make packets of snowman soup, hot chocolate, to send along with the stockings. For more information, patterns, and a list of items needed, visit stockingsforsoldiers.org. This holiday season, help send our troops a touch of home. For many, it's all they will receive. All stockings need to be completed by November 20th. So get started today at stockingsforsoldiers.org. That's stockingsforsoldiers.org. Stockings for Soldiers, sending stockings filled with joy to our soldiers in harm's way for the 9th consecutive year.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Anna Little and yours truly, Rick Trader. And for rebroadcast of our shows, please check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com, or mornings at 9 a.m., log on to the leadingedgeradionetwork.com. At 1 p.m., log on to roarradio.net. And at 6 p.m., you can hear rebroadcast by logging on to thepunditpress.com. Also, you can hear our show any time of the day from your telephone, 832-999-1199. Our guest is Sam Rohr. Sam served 18 years in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, and he is the president of the Pennsylvania Pastors Network. He's also the host of Stand in the Gap Today. Sam Rohr, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
It is great to be back with you. Absolutely.
Sam, I miss you, buddy.
I miss being with you too, Rick. I really do.
We had great conversations. Sam, before we go much farther, please tell our audience a little bit about Stand in the Gap Today and also the Pennsylvania or the American Pastors Network.
Well, Rick, I appreciate it very much. Yeah, the American Pastors Network is the largest networking of pastors in the country. That allows for, which we have chapters in many states, organized entities by which pastors can stand up and speak biblically and constitutionally. Our Stand in the Gap radio program is dedicated to taking the news of the day, kind of like what you do here in this program, Rick, and we take it and we look at it and filter it through both a biblical lens as well as a constitutional lens, because frankly, every issue that confronts us in the culture has a moral underpinning to it, and it also, because it's in the culture, has a constitutional connection associated with it. So we take both of these and look at them together to help bring some clarity out of these days of deception, I would say, and the confusion, which I think all of the listeners know. The media, the modern media, tries to confuse and do everything they can to withhold the truth. We're trying to bring truth and do it in that fashion. So thank you, Rick.
Well, you're quite welcome, Sam. Sam, we asked you on today, and you've been talking with Anna about this congressional letter that is urging the Ukrainian parliament to include LGBT agenda into their new constitution. Sam, is LGBT very high on the Ukrainian radar screen right now?
Rick, see, this is the thing. This is the amazing thing about it. No, not at all. Matter of fact, they don't want anything to do with it. It's not a part of their culture. It's not about to be a part of their culture. As I was sharing with Anna before the break, as the president goes into Africa, and many of these African nations, culturally, it's more than taboo. It is absolutely, it's a perversion of morality. They want nothing to do with it, and yet they strong-arm them into these things. Rick, I mean, it causes these nations, who otherwise would be our friends, and who have been long-standing allies or friends of the United States, it's causing them. It's almost literally like putting our finger in their eye. And when our administration or the president actually, like they did to the president of Kenya when he said, please don't come here and try to lean on us on this issue, and the president goes and leans on him, it really is an arrogant statement that's really a sticking of the finger in their eye, and they only have one of two responses. They either say, well, I guess that's just the way it is, or inside they begin to seethe, they begin to get angry, and their attitude towards our nation begins to change. That is what the result of these kinds of things are. That's what they're producing, Rick.
Sam, I know you have a lot of contacts over in the Ukraine. I know that you have been there for yourself. Two-part question. What kind of political pressure are people in the Ukraine feeling about this letter and about this issue? And can you give me some personal feedback that you might have gotten from any of your contacts over there?
Well, I can. I think to some degree the letter, while it went, found a bit more of an offense as a result of it, more than the fact that it has precipitated them to seriously consider it. So they haven't taken it seriously, but it has offended them. But can I put this in this context too, Rick? I think would be helpful for people to understand. In the nation of Ukraine, as I said earlier, their major legislative issue is producing a new constitution that reflects, as they say, they want it to reflect more of what our Constitution is. our involvement as American Pastors Network there, working with them, is helping to lead them towards a constitution and building in principles that looks like ours. They made a statement to us, Rick. Key people in Parliament, pastors there as well, said to us, we want our nation and our laws to reflect what America used to be, not what America is. Think about that. Think about that. And what's taking place is this. They are being pulled and tugged. Russia to the east, which has invaded the east and Crimea, Russia and Putin is trying to put leverage on them to include things in their constitution that favor him, Putin, and Russia. And what he uses is energy. They supply most of the heat for Ukraine. He threatens, if you don't go along and do some of what I say, then I'm going to turn off the heat. It's heavy-handed stuff. But European Union to the west are socialist. But they are the lenders of money. George Soros, who's in Europe, has spent a lot of money, millions of dollars on the ground in Ukraine to try to influence the movement of their constitution towards socialism. So European Union says, we want you to put things in our constitution that reflects socialism and depreciate your sovereignty, and if you don't consider this, we may then withhold our IMF loans, International Monetary Fund loans, or economic loans to your country, which they need. The United States, though, steps in, our administration steps in and says to them, we want you to take and put these kinds of LGBT things into your Constitution, abortion rights and so forth and all that, and put it into your Constitution, and if you don't, what do we threaten to withhold? Well, we won't give you the military aid that you need in order to defend yourself against Russia. So here it is. The United States threatens, European Union threatens, Russia threatens. All of them, none of them, really want the best for Ukraine. They want what Ukraine can give to them. And what can you imagine as a nation, as people trying to operate within that? We're trying to provide to them instruction and help of saying, look, you don't have to go. None of these options are good. None of these are best for Ukraine, but there is a way that you can move toward a constitution that truly reflects God-given rights and inalienable rights and what that means, limited government, all that kind of thing that looks like our Constitution. But you can't do it by following socialism, you can't do it by following Putin, and you sure can't do it by following the dictates of our current Obama administration. It's an amazing time in history.
Well, I am just flabbergasted that the United States would try to threaten Ukraine, telling them include LGBT agenda in your Constitution or we'll withhold military aid to defend you against Russia. And when Russia was invading Crimea in the first place, we were nowhere to be found. And they were peacefully trying to change their government in the American tradition, and they asked for our help, and we were completely silent. So I think that the audacity is palpable there. And beyond that, you know, it almost makes me think of the mafia when somebody says, I'll break your kneecaps if you don't pay me money, you know? It's kind of the same type of technique. Do as I say or else. As if somehow these foreign entities should have power and control over what goes on in another foreign entity. And Ukraine is a recognized state. They're an independent state. What are your thoughts on that, Sam?
Well, I think you're totally correct. I mean, these are efforts that are not efforts that are genuine, transparent. They're not for true freedom or liberty. They're not for the independence or the sovereignty of a nation, not at all. Matter of fact, what they all want is that nation's sovereignty. All of these entities want to be able to tell them what to do, which is really a flying in the face of everything about what our Constitution stands for, what the freedoms of our founders originally desired to get, and what we've enjoyed here. That's not what they're doing. This is bribery. It is corruption. And it's a heavy-handed, arrogant technique that is used. You know, if I can turn off the heat, I can make you bow. If I can stop your loans, I can make you bow. If I can remove your defenses or not help you defend yourself. I mean, they're all of the same type, just only slightly different. But they're all bad policy, and they make. Well, I mean, it's just an arrogant thing that ought not to be spoken of from our nation, and this is what we're doing around the world, unfortunately, as we find out more and more as we travel around the world.
Well, you keep doing what you're doing, Sam, with your American Pastors Network, promoting the pure principles on which this nation was founded and our protection of our God-given rights. Remind our listeners where they can follow your work.
Absolutely. You can go to AmericanPastorsNetwork.net. That's our main website, AmericanPastorsNetwork.net, or our radio site with several radio programs, StandInTheGapRadio.com, StandInTheGapRadio.com. Those two sites.
Thank you so much, Sam. Time flies when you're having fun. You've got to come back and see us again soon.
Like to. Anytime, Anna. Thank you, Rick.
Okay, listeners, we are coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Roar Radio, Reboot Liberty, and AM/FM 24/7. They are all .com. Rick Trader and Anna Little will be right back with you after the break.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
You've heard Paul Deltz playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
This holiday season, help Soldiers for Stockings improve the morale and welfare of members of our armed forces deployed overseas. Now through November 20th, there is so much work to be done, and you can help in many ways. Download the stocking pattern from stockingsforsoldiers.org and start sewing today. Volunteer to help decorate and assemble stockings. Donate Christmas candies, snacks, nuts, chips, drink mixes, DVDs, books, magazines, lip balm, toiletries, and other items needed to fill the stocking. Or help make packets of snowman soup, hot chocolate, to send along with the stockings. For more information, patterns, and a list of items needed, visit stockingsforsoldiers.org. This holiday season, help send our troops a touch of home. For many, it's all they will receive. All stockings need to be completed by November 20th. So get started today at stockingsforsoldiers.org. That's stockingsforsoldiers.org. Stockings for Soldiers, sending stockings filled with joy to our soldiers in harm's way for the 9th consecutive year.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Anna Little.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Rick Trader and Anna Little.
Hey, Anna, I have to interrupt you. We do not have our guest yet.
Okay.
But you can.
All right.
You can do the welcome back.
I'm happy to do the welcome back because, you know, if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, you can check out our websites at CCRS Network and CCRshow.com, or mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com, or 1 p.m., also Eastern Standard, log on to roarradio.net, and at 6 p.m., also Eastern, log on to thepunditpress.com. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Now, Rick, you've told me we don't have our guest. So
no.
Talk about some things while we try to get him on the line?
Absolutely. We're still trying to locate him, but go ahead.
Well, you know, we had talked a little bit about Ukraine with Sam Rohr, and I think it's important for us to focus on Ukraine because, remember, they trusted the United States when we said, go ahead and give up your nuclear weapons in a disarmament initiative that we were supporting. But we will make sure that we defend you against Russia. And then in that moment, when they needed our help in defense against Russia, as Russia was invading Crimea, we did nothing. Well, right now, it seems like there's still a lot of action going on in Ukraine. As Sam Rohr so expertly pointed out, there seems to be an initiative toward changing the Constitution, but also it seems like the Prime Minister is promising a new cabinet. That's 2 minutes ago from Politico. I'll give us a little more detail on that. It says that Arseniy Yatsenyuk has pledged to bring in a new cabinet after his Western-friendly coalition suffered a resounding defeat to the parties of oligarchs and Russian sympathizers at the local elections last week. There have been mistakes. That's what Yatsenyuk admitted to Politico during an interview in his Soviet-era cabinet offices. But he'll correct these mistakes with new folks sitting in the cabinet. So, you know, I think that Ukraine is certainly a hotbed for change right now. And I do think that we've got to keep our eyes on that. And I see from your message that our guest is ready. So I'm going to go right into that introduction, if it's okay with you, Rick. Joel Gerke is a political reporter for National Review, and he worked as a commentary staff writer at the Washington Examiner for 3 years, covering campaigns, congressional oversight, and the White House. He's coming on to Conservative Commandos today to talk about the VA and how it solved its disability backlog by putting other veterans in a jam. Joel, welcome to Conservative Commandos radio show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, Joel, I can't think of a more important issue than those surrounding the veterans, as those were the individuals willing to put their lives on the line for each and every one of us. And it seems like no matter how we try to deliver services to these veterans, they come up with the short end of the stick. What's going on now?
Yeah, so obviously there's been this scandal of a disability claims backlog where we had veterans dying waiting for care, because their disability claims weren't processed. And that's been a big issue for years now. And the Department of Veterans Affairs had set a deadline of the end of the 2015 fiscal year, which is really like September 30th, for clearing that backlog. They set that a few years ago. And earlier this summer, they were pretty clearly missing that deadline. And about the same time, they started moving the goalposts and said they were shifting their goal from the end of the fiscal year to the end of the calendar year. Right about that same time, they also stopped approving overtime for people who wanted to process education claims, like GI Bill benefit claims. And so you saw over the summer, a lot of student veterans were unable to get the money that they needed because they were instead devoting those people to processing the disability claims.
Yeah, it's really difficult. This GI Bill, it's supposed to aid our veterans coming back from war, coming back from military service. It's supposed to aid them in adjustment to civilian life and getting a civilian job. That's what the GI Bill is all about. You can educate yourself, you can retrain yourself to skills that are more transferable or more applicable to the private sector. And so that's why the GI Bill is so important. And if folks are not getting the aid they need to follow in on that education, well, then what are they supposed to be doing? I mean, obviously they're getting that aid because they need that education. So that's a real stickler. But I think even the disability hits home even harder. You're talking about food in people's mouths and the roof over their heads. So what is it we need to do in order to help this VA adjust so that we can improve the situation for our veterans?
Yeah, and that's the really weird thing is I was talking to veterans activists who obviously care, even a Student Veterans for America group, obviously they care a lot about student vets, but they were able to say, if this is an issue where they could see the logic of prioritizing these disability claims issues, because that's talking about people's health and people's lives. The weird thing is that the VA didn't admit they were doing that. I mean, they kind of talked about it in private, but you just call a random call center and you say, I'm a veteran, or I'm family of a veteran, and I can't get my GI Bill benefits. They generally attributed it to something about a seasonal influx of claims or applications, or maybe your school did something wrong. Factors outside their control. Instead of communicating that they had made a policy change, which was creating a logjam.
So, Joel, what you're saying is they
could have actually probably defended the position.
Right, but what you're saying, Joel, is that the VA lied to these vets, told them something that wasn't true, that they knew or should have known, but probably definitely knew, was attributable to a change within themselves, and they still led the vets to believe that it was from somewhere else. I think the truth is awfully important, especially when you're dealing with taxpayer funding. You've got to tell the truth about what's going on. Now, do you think there's a better way this could be administrated? Is the VA, the Veterans Administration, the way to administer these funding sources, or is there a better way to do it?
Well, I mean, that's kind of a big policy question. This is the thing about the education benefits. I know we talk a lot about stuff like government-run health care and the some of the difficulties that they've had in providing that. But the education benefits, if they can't administer that, I mean, that's literally just doing it, verifying that you are who you say you are, you qualify for the claims, and then it's a direct deposit into your account. The complaints that people make about that are complaints of that they don't get it in on time, or that when they do make the deposit, they don't give you an itemization the way the Defense Department does, so you don't even know, did you get the money you're supposed to get? Did you get enough of it? Did they short you on accident? So there's a lot of ambiguity there. But on some level, if the government is going to offer, it's really a form of payment. It's sort of remuneration. It's an incentive to get people to join the military. If they're going to offer these benefits, they've got to figure out a way to deliver them.
Yeah, well, I guess the oversight is supposed to be focused with the congressional Republicans. I mean, obviously, because the Congress is controlled by Republicans right now, at least the House and the Senate. So it seems this way that the congressional Republicans seem to have the task of overseeing the VA. What are they saying about these problems, and did they propose some kind of solution for the vets?
Actually, Chairman Jeff Miller, the Florida congressman who chairs the House VA committee, when I asked his team about this, he said this is basically an example of the VA, being unable to walk and chew gum at the same time, and that they need to work this out. As it happens, a subcommittee of the VA committee was already going to have a hearing this afternoon about education benefits on the IT systems. So I expect that this will come up in the context of that hearing. There are different ideas as to what could be done to fix all this. One big problem is that they depend heavily on overtime and hiring overtime workers. So there's a way to either not just throw more money at it, but sort of reorganize how they allocate people, and then also reorganize when they actually give you the money. Have a module that makes it clear what the money's for. That's something that student veterans have talked about.
Well, I'm having a hard time understanding this need for overtime in a day of really advanced technology. Perhaps it's not more bodies they need. Perhaps it's not more hours they need. Maybe it's a technological upgrade. We all know the government is behind where it comes to technology. So we're going to have to go to a quick break. It's only 2 minutes. Can you hold on during that break and we'll talk about technology on the other end?
Certainly can.
Thank you so much. We are speaking this segment with Joel Gerke. He's a political reporter for National Review. We're talking about the VA and its disability backlog and also backlogs with funding for students via the GI Bill. And listeners, we are coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Roar Radio, Reboot Liberty, and AM/FM 24/7. Those are all .coms. Rick Trader, Anna Little, and Joel Gerke will be right back with you after the break.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the Internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
This holiday season, help Soldiers for Stockings improve the morale and welfare of members of our armed forces deployed overseas. Now through November 20th, there is so much work to be done, and you can help in many ways. Download the stocking pattern from stockingsforsoldiers.org and start sewing today. Volunteer to help decorate and assemble stockings. Donate Christmas candies, snacks, nuts, chips, drink mixes, DVDs, books, magazines, lip balm, toiletries, and other items needed to fill the stocking. Or help make packets of snowman soup, hot chocolate, to send along with the stockings. For more information, patterns, and a list of items needed, visit stockingsforsoldiers.org. This holiday season, help send our troops a touch of home. For many, it's all they will receive. All stockings need to be completed by November 20th. So get started today at stockingsforsoldiers.org. That's stockingsforsoldiers.org. Stockings for Soldiers, sending stockings filled with joy to our soldiers in harm's way for the 9th consecutive year.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos, and for rebroadcast of our shows, check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com, or mornings at 9 a.m. you can log on to Leading Edge Radio Network, or at 1 p.m. log on to roarradio.net, or at 6 p.m. log on to thepunditpress.com. You can also hear our show from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Our guest this segment is Joel Gerke. He is a political reporter for the National Review, and we're discussing his article, "The VA Solved Its Disability Backlog by Putting Other Vets in a Jam." Joel, thanks for holding through the break. We appreciate your time.
Hey, happy to do it. Thank you for having me.
Joel, I got to be honest with you. I'm watching hearings this morning, and the VA administrator in Philadelphia, she was asked about a huge bonus that she got for moving to Philadelphia. And by the way, it wasn't much of a hardship considering she's got relatives in Wilmington, Delaware. She was given a bonus of about almost $300,000. She took the Fifth Amendment on this, Joel. Joel, I look at the VA and I see it as a snake pit. I hear reports that the vets are waiting, and sometimes up to 3 years, to change their benefits if they marry or have a child. I hear that the employees there are giving bonuses when they do a certain amount of work, so they actually send out fake letters saying, "Oh, I'm working on your case," and they get credit for that. Joel, I wonder if it's time just to shut the VA down and put Veterans Affairs in the hands of the Department of Defense. Your thoughts?
Certainly the way student activists, you recited it, it's really sort of a murderer's row of problems they've had lately with the disability claims and different things. You need to do more than move people from one building to another to solve some of the issues. One thing that student veterans, so I was talking to Student Veterans for America this week, and what they talked about was at least having a lot more coordination between the Defense Department and the VA. For instance, we were just talking about this question of education claims. One real difficulty is that the people don't know when they're going to get their education money, and then when it does come, you sort of wake up one morning and you find out there's a deposit made into your account, which is great, except it's not itemized. So did they give you enough? Did they give you too little? When it's, let's say they're late, was that for the coming semester or for the semester that they were late on, or for your books or different things like that? So, and actually the Defense Department is really good about how they itemize that stuff. And the VA has all the same info the Defense Department has, or at least can get what they don't have from DoD, but they don't bring to bear that level of customer service. So at a minimum, there are issues where they need to coordinate a lot more closely with DoD.
Well, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I think Joel is right in a sense. You need more coordination. But, Joel, I'm concerned about more coordination would mean more levels of government, more levels of administration. What's your thoughts, Anna?
Well, I think
you're going to have that issue on any level. There are some issues where it's easy to say, to have a conservative position be, let's get rid of that department. Let's not have that thing do that thing anymore. National security, national defense, having a military, and then providing, medical care and education benefits and the different things that you promise to people in order to get them to volunteer for the military. That's not something you can outsource. And so, really, what they've got to do is this is one problem that they just actually have to fix and get right. They've just got to get good at this because there's nobody else who can do it.
Now, Joel, that being said, where are we with technology? I mean, I know I worked in government, and it was at a local level, it was at county level, and then at a local level in my town. And the technology that is being used to administer a program at these levels is so outdated, incredible, compared to what's being used in the private sector in business today. So I wonder if we shouldn't address technology with the VA to see if there is a better delivery system, especially since we're talking about the administration of funding to individuals. I mean, there has got to be a better way to get this money to these folks without adding additional hours, adding additional manpower or man-hours to the problem. What do you think?
Yeah, so, on that point, the way that the student vets I talked to, the way that they addressed the problem of this, issue of the education claims not being processed is they were saying that that basically VA is too dependent on overtime work, and their solution wasn't necessarily more technology, although they talked about that. But what they wanted was much better management at the managerial level of this. It's a really manual labor-intensive job, and so it needs to be better run at the mid level and at the senior level. If there's an IT plan to make it less manual labor, they haven't figured that out yet. Obviously, as you mentioned, the government's always behind on tech. There's actually, in that hearing that I mentioned today, that should be going on right now, actually, one of the things they were going to talk about was IT systems to figure out how to distribute these, streamline these processes a little better. But, they certainly haven't identified the total solution yet. They're more at the diagnosing the problem phase.
Yeah, well, I think they ought to focus on that technology because there are experts in the field that would be able to talk about how to streamline and make more efficient the delivery, especially of funding services, where you're collecting information from an applicant and then delivering funds to that person. Most banking is done electronically these days. There's no reason why the information can't be collected electronically. Now, security is always an issue, and I know that's why government officials indicate that they are behind in technology, is they have to prove the security of a technology, a technique, or a program before they use it. But I think at this point, they've got to do something because the VA is in really bad shape. I'm hoping technology is going to be part of the solution, if not the whole solution, and that we don't have to keep adding additional layers of bureaucracy or more manpower or more checks, because, we find when we have too much oversight in the actual delivery of the service, more money is spent checking and double checking and pretty much, shall we say, justifying the existence of these middleman positions, and not enough time is spent on actually getting the job done. So in the 2 minutes we have left, do you want to add to what I've said or perhaps say something contrary, whatever?
Yeah, you got to strike a balance between having bureaucracy for bureaucracy's sake, and then but also having two things. One, enough management to really be able to handle the low level, the sheer number of low level employees you have where you're trying to work really efficiently. Because one thing that they have is it's just a lack of communication within the entity. So when you talk to the call center person, they can't really tell you how long it'll take your claim because your claim's sitting on somebody's desk, and we're not sure if that person has 50 people to get through before they get to you or 500. So there's that just at the customer service level. But this is actually one area where double and triple checking would be really useful because the only thing more annoying than not getting your money or getting too little money is, again, I told you they dump it in there. They don't really explain it. When they screw up and they accidentally give you too much money, right? And then and you don't know they gave you too much because wasn't really explained what's supposed to be coming here. And then they figure out their mistake and they can go into your account and take it back out. Which creates a real problem for you if you're somebody who expected there to be $1,000 there, and then they say, sorry, we made a bank error, and now we just unexpectedly yanked $300 out. So I hope you didn't write a $1,000 check. So this is an area where there needs to be a high degree of efficiency, but also a high degree of attention to detail.
Yep, I agree, and I do think technology is probably the answer because I've seen a change just in my day-to-day work with a government agency, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Department of the Department of Homeland Security. And that group used to be terrible about communicating. Now they have all the information they need about a particular immigrant at their fingertips on the computer. They tell me more than what I know about my client. And I can do it with a phone call to a voicemail. I get a return call within 24 to 48 hours. If they can do it in that agency, they can do it in the Veterans Administration. And I think our veterans deserve at least as much service as the immigrant population is getting. I believe they deserve more so. So there you go. And I do think technology will help that. So why don't you remind our listeners where they can follow your work, Joel?
Go to nationalreview.com, and not just me. There's Jonah Goldberg, Eliana Johnson, Rich there's a lot of really good people there. You should certainly go to nationalreview.com and check them out.
Okay, and they can follow you on this VA issue and other issues as we go forward, right?
I'll hope to be all over it.
Yep. Well, I want to thank you for spending time with us today on the Conservative Commandos radio show. Do come back and see us again soon.
Hey, look forward to it. Thank you.
Okay, listeners, that was Joel Gerke. He's a political reporter for National Review. He was talking to us about the VA and how it was solving its disability backlog by putting other veterans, specifically those applying for the GI Bill, in a jam. And you are listening to Conservative Commandos Radio Network Studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Roar Radio, Reboot Liberty, and AM/FM 24/7. They are all.com. Anna Little and Rick Trader will be right back with you after the break.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm messy, but
You've heard Paul Deltz playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
This holiday season, help Soldiers for Stockings improve the morale and welfare of members of our armed forces deployed overseas. Now through November 20th, there is so much work to be done, and you can help in many ways. Download the stocking pattern from stockingsforsoldiers.org and start sewing today. Volunteer to help decorate and assemble stockings. Donate Christmas candies, snacks, nuts, chips, drink mixes, DVDs, books, magazines, lip balm, toiletries, and other items needed to fill the stockings. Or help make packets of snowman soup, hot chocolate, to send along with the stockings. For more information, patterns, and a list of items needed, visit stockingsforsoldiers.org. This holiday season, help send our troops a touch of home. For many, it's all they will receive. All stockings need to be completed by November 20th. So get started today at stockingsforsoldiers.org. That's stockingsforsoldiers.org. Stockings for Soldiers, sending stockings filled with joy to our soldiers in harm's way for the 9th consecutive year.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader. And for rebroadcasts of our shows, check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com, or mornings at 9 a.m. Log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. At 1 p.m., you can log on to roarradio.net, and at 6 p.m., it is thepunditpress.com. You can also hear our show from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. And our next guest is Dan Gaynor. Dan is the Vice President for Business and Culture of the Media Research Center. Dan is a veteran editor with more than 2 decades experience in print and online media. And in addition to this show, and just about every time I turn on the radio, I hear Dan as a guest on one program or another, but he's a regular on Fox Business Network. Dan Gaynor, welcome back to Conservative Commandos radio show.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you all. How are you doing today?
We're doing great, Dan. Well, Dan, for someone like yourself who watches the media, what is your take on the last debate?
Well, I mean, the last debate was ridiculous. Look, there's not a person in America who has any, I guess, honor and willingness to call things as they are who thinks that that debate was fairly done. Mm-hmm. Even the New York Times, which tried to defend it, still describes several, the questions as loopy. Look, when you start with your question saying your campaign appears to be comic book, and you go downhill from there, of course it's ridiculous. John Harwood should have never been on that stage. Honestly, liberal media should never be involved in the GOP primary. There's just no reason for it. Mm-hmm. But they are, because people are idiots. And, whether it was Harwood or Becky Quick or Carlos Quintanilla, they all did their best to try to spin the debate to the left, which they do all the time. I mean, we just went through this back in 2012 with Candy Crowley trying to fix the election. There's the movie out right now about Dan Rather. Dan Rather trying to fix an election. When will people learn that journalists in America, by and large, not all of them, but as a collective entity, hate Republicans, hate conservatives, hate Christians, will do everything they can to destroy any or all of those groups? So I mean, yes, CNBC was thoroughly predictable. In fact, we wrote a piece 2 days before it. The Federalist with Molly Hemingway wrote a piece 2 days before. We all teed up that John Harwood was going to be a one-sided lefty tool.
And he turned out to be such. Well, Dan, as someone like myself who enjoys reality TV shows, I thought the debate was a freak show. It was one of the best reality shows on TV. Now, I'm not defending it. I'm just saying, as far as a viewing perspective, somebody who's looking for a little bit of drama, it certainly did produce it. And, what is your assessment of the reaction of Ted Cruz blasting the questions of the moderators and Republican National Committee Chairman Rance Priebus's reaction towards the debate afterwards?
Well, I mean, first of all, remember, as much as I like Ted Cruz and what he did, the first person to attack the media in that was actually Marco Rubio, when he was asked about resigning and such. So, but he did so initially in a more mild way. Ted Cruz summed it up real well. It wasn't just Cruz and Rubio, although Rubio had the real good super PAC line. Let's see, Huckabee had a good comment. Trump had a good comment. Carson was particularly good. The they know, where he just basically let the crowd's booing speak for him. And then Chris Christie, who I at times have been very critical of, batting cleanup with his that would be, what you're doing would be rude even in New Jersey.
Yes, it's a great comment. And I don't even like Chris Christie. I'm.
But by my count, at least 6 of the 10 on the main stage attacked CNBC, fought back. I mean, that was good, but it's like one of those movies that comes out right around Christmas and it's in the theater for a week and then it goes. The major media in America will not be honest enough to do navel gazing, to really look around and realize that this is just the state of journalism in America these days. So I mean, it's not a winning strategy, in my opinion, to keep making that your number one issue. So,
well, Dan, do you believe it's time that the GOP buys its own airtime, holds and sponsors its own debates, and gets away from the liberal outlets like CNBC, MSNBC, and CNN?
I mean, I don't think it needs to buy its own airtime. I think it can arm twist and get its own airtime. And here's how. it basically makes it clear, say, well, hey, look, we're going to, take bids for networks that want to host debates.
Mm-hmm.
You will be able to propose a moderator, singular, who will simply call on people, keep order, etc., and then the RNC or whatever will come up with a list of people that are proposed, Jonah Goldberg, Charles Krauthammer, famous conservatives of different stripes, because there are different stripes. There are more establishment conservatives. There are libertarians. There are strong social cons. They should all be there. So foreign policy conservatives, let the right speak for itself. It's not an issue about what the journalists want.
Well, Dan, I would love to see.
But here's how they do it. Here's how they pull it off: is you tell them that that networks that don't submit proposals will not be part of general election debates.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Dan, we got to take a quick break. Could you hold on for just 2 minutes for us, please? And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network, WNJC 1360, and around the world on the internet with Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Roar Radio, Reboot, Liberty, and AMFM247.com. Our guest this segment is Dan Gaynor, Vice President for Business and Culture of the Media Research Center. We're talking about the bias of the debates coming from the liberal left. Be right back.
They say I'm nasty, but
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
This holiday season, help Soldiers for Stockings improve the morale and welfare of members of our armed forces deployed overseas. Now through November 20th, there is so much work to be done, and you can help in many ways. Download the stocking pattern from stockingsforsoldiers.org and start sewing today. Volunteer to help decorate and assemble stockings. Donate Christmas candies, snacks, nuts, chips, drink mixes, DVDs, books, magazines, lip balm, toiletries, and other items needed to fill the stocking. Or help make packets of snowman soup, hot chocolate, to send along with the stockings. For more information, patterns, and a list of items needed, visit stockingsforsoldiers.org. This holiday season, help send our troops a touch of home. For many, it's all they will receive. All stockings need to be completed by November 20th. So get started today at stockingsforsoldiers.org. That's stockingsforsoldiers.org. Stockings for Soldiers, sending stockings filled with joy to our soldiers in harm's way for the 9th consecutive year.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Rip Trader and Anna Little. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, check out our website, CCRS Network and CCRshow.com, or mornings 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, LeadingEdgeRadioNetwork.com, 1 p.m. RoarRadio.net, and 6 p.m. PunditPress.com. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any telephone by calling 832-999-1199. We are speaking this segment with Dan Gaynor, Vice President for Business and Culture of the Media Research Center, and he is a veteran editor with more than 2 decades experience. He's talking to us today about the GOP fighting back against that, let's say, liberal media slant, especially exemplified in the CNBC debate. Dan, thank you so much for holding through that break. We do appreciate your time.
Well, it's a pleasure. And see, it's not just CNBC. What's really interesting is watching the media reaction to the GOP complaints. On the far left,
that's exactly where I want to go with it. You know, Ted Cruz has had an uptick in the polls for standing up to that bias. There's been a backlash at the mainstream liberal bias media. I'm wondering if there's a connection to public reaction in the fact that these liberal critics couldn't even defend this. Now, you go ahead, add to it.
Well, I was going to say on the far left, they think it's ridiculous that there's no such thing as media bias. So they have the Obama reaction where he's like, oh, if they can't handle these questions from CNBC, how are they going to negotiate with Putin? Forgetting, of course, that Obama was such a coward that when during his original election, when newspapers endorsed John McCain, he kicked the reporters off the press plane, and that he proceeded to run a jihad of 7 years against the press. Drudge, Fox, CNBC, even people like Jim Cramer, who are a liberal, the White House went after them. They investigate people, tap their phones. This has been a crusade against the press to the point where you remember when they had the BP spill in the Gulf. The White House said, oh, yeah, we're in charge of everything. Well, if they were in charge of everything, the people who were most angry about it were the press, who weren't allowed into the spill area, weren't even allowed to fly over it, because, of course, that would make the administration look bad because it happened on their watch. So the media are overwhelmingly, on the left, are overwhelmingly disconnected. But even the major media, like the New York Times, like I said, they call it loopy. They still think the questions were legitimate. Most of the reporters are terrified that they're going to be squeezed out of these debates. It should have happened before. After the Candy Crowley thing, it should have happened from that point on. The GOP should have made it clear that they are not going to ever allow journalists to control both the Republican primary, because why are they even there in a Republican primary, not even voting Republican, and then even to influence the general. And if journalists don't like that, too bad. They're not allies of the GOP. I mean, if you saw the Joe Scarborough rant yesterday, fantastic rant, and I'm no fan of Joe Scarborough either. So if I'm raving about him, I mean, he did real well.
Well, I think it's very important for us to look at this from an analytical standpoint, because we've seen that there's been a public backlash in 2010 taking back the Congress at the House of Representatives level. We then see in 2012 another backlash, more to say, in the efforts toward the Senate race, and then an eventual takeover of the Senate, or at least putting a Republican majority there, people taking that back. And now we see that you have a candidate in Ted Cruz who seems to be more representative of the people. He can't even get along with members of his own party, and that is, from the mouth of his critics. And he stands up against the liberal-leaning media and gets a huge uptick in the polls, which tells me there's some kind of public support for Ted Cruz in general, and perhaps specifically related to his performance in that debate. I wonder if the media is going to have to adjust after this, the mainstream media, that is, in order to keep people watching them. And I wonder what the effect might be on stations like Fox News or perhaps on, sites like your own, the Media Research Center, which are more neutral or at least analytical of what's going on. And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think, Cruz got, one of the things that benefited him is he was very smart, and he did something that, by attacking the media, he also defended 5 other candidates on the stage. Right. So, Cruz, who is often called by his critics not a team player, was the guy who carried the banner and took his debate time and used it to attack the press. But at the same time, he does real well in the debates. He always has in college, etc. So that benefited him. I think how the debates play out now is going to be interesting. The next debate is, in fact, Fox Business with some fairly well-known business people who maybe will actually ask business questions this time. Neil Cavuto and Maria Bartiromo. So it will be interesting to see how Fox Business handles it. If they handle it in an intelligent, professional, non-gotcha way, they don't say, we're talking about money, so when's the last time you cheated on your wife? We're talking about the stock market, so, have you been arrested for any crimes? We're talking about family money. Marco Rubio, let's talk about your traffic tickets. If they do that, and I don't believe they will, there will be a backlash against them too. If they keep it to the issues and ask tough but fair questions, that's one thing. But if they make them petty and aggressive, I think people will rebel. How the major media handle it after that will also be interesting. Does the Fox debate kind of tamp down the issue of the questions, or does it make it worse?
Dan, I think there's another thing the stupid questions coming from the liberal media does. It's a distraction from reality and real issues. When it comes to real issues, the Democrat Party has nothing but failed policies and terrible results over the last 7 years. So it's definitely a distraction from the real issues, like the budget and defense and Iran.
That's why I said it's only it's a 1 week issue. The GOP can't keep fighting the media for very long. They burn out. And so, yes, they need to move on. They need to leverage this. So say, okay, look, we're gonna fix this problem. We're gonna move on, and here's how we're gonna deal with the press going forward. But you're right. If they make it about that, dealing with the media only sells on the right, and even then only sells for so long.
Well, I think one thing, and then I'll give you a little time to come back at me. I think the one thing that the people out there like right now is they like someone to stand up against, and that's why they like Trump. That's why I think Christie got a lot of play 2-3 years ago, because they saw a tough guy standing up and defending himself. And, I think that's what resonates with people. And if you look at the last debate, Frank Luntz had his dial people going, and 98%, he got a 98%, Ted Cruz did, from his reaction.
But see, I think Ben Carson pokes a little bit of a hole in that, because I think they want people who will not be bullied. I think that's probably a better way of putting it. They don't have to be tough per se. You don't have to be, because Ted Cruz, Donald Trump, and Ben Carson are all, and even Carly Fiorina are all different ways of being tough. Even Marco Rubio the other day against Charlie Rose on CBS. Mm-hmm. All of them have been unbullied. And I think that is certainly what the GOP electorate seems to be looking at. I think the media are doing a bad job of characterizing that. It's not just the outsider thing.
Hey, Dan, we have to run, but you very well may be right, because I'm looking at an article right now by Katie Pavlich. Ben Carson takes lead from Trump in polls, so you very well may be right. Hey, Dan, tell our audience where they can follow your work.
They can find me on newsbusters.org. I also write for foxnews.com. And they can find me on Twitter, where I am using fisticuffs to beat down crazy lefties. Dan Gaynor, DANGAINOR.
Well, Dan, I know I turn on the radio 3, 4, 5 times a week, and I hear you on different shows. And so I know you're out there. You do great work. I want to thank you so much for joining us on the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thank you very much. I look forward to being on again.
Take care. And I want to thank you for sitting in today as my co-host. I also want to thank our guest, Sam Rohrer, Joel Gerke, our most recent guest, Dan Gaynor, and Anna Little. Again, thank you so much for sharing this day with me. But for right now, we're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow on the radio.
WNJC, Washington Township, Philadelphia.
Say what you need to say. Say what you need to say. Say what you need to say. Say what you need to say.